Thanks for staying with us on the conversation. We switch gears right now to Nigeria, where the NLC, that is Nigerian Labour Congress, has dismissed rumours suggesting that it might retract its planned nationwide industrial action scheduled for Wednesday. The NLC clarified that the strike would only be called off if the federal government and the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation Limited, NNPCL, took necessary steps to revert to the previous state of affairs regarding the removal of fuel subsidies.
Now, following the official adjustment of pump prices by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited after removal of fuel subsidies, the NLC announced a nationwide strike on Friday. It's important to note that during his inaugural speech, President Bola Tinubu declared an end to the era of petroleum product subsidies. This policy change has had significant implications for the Nigerian political landscape since May 29, 2023. Now, joining us to discuss all of this, we have Seyi Olufemi, an insight lead at Data Fight, joins us from Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. We also have Oladipo Olalekan, efficient, a political analyst, joining us from Lagos. A warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thanks for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd like to start with you, Seyi. Can you give us a clear understanding of the direct impact of the fuel subsidy removal on importation consumption of fuel in Nigeria, and why has this become such a contentious issue?
Yeah, thank you, everyone at TV Central. Of course, it's a contentious issue because the decision the government is taking, and whatever way it's going to go, is going to affect the daily lives of many people. A great percentage of people are going to be affected because the removal of fuel subsidy is going to bring about increase. Definitely, we've seen that like over 100% increase in the price of fuel, especially PMS, which have just been deregulated fully, and then it affects the purchasing power of the people, and directly. And this is the way it happens because it's going to affect the transport sector. Everyone who moves, everyone who's mobile, everyone who has to move from point A to point B is going to be affected adversely. So people always, that's why people are agitated. And when that happens, both to the normal commuter and the business person who is moving goods and services, moving goods from one place to another, they're going to be paying more for their to transport their goods. And that's when those goods are bought, they are transported at a higher cost. These traders or manufacturers who are paying more for transport than they used to pay are going to transfer that extra cost to the goods they are buying. So not only will the people pay more for transporting themselves here and there, they're going to pay more for goods, for services. People who are paying school fees, they will pay more fees. They will pay more for. Sorry, I think there's a light off. We're trying to bring it back, so that's why probably my background is a bit dark. So it's going to happen. We're going to restore it very shortly. So what I'm saying is that it's going to affect school fees, bus fees. It's going to affect the price of things in the market. This is going to have an effect on every aspect of people's lives. I think that is why it's a contentious issue. But the fact that it's going to be a problem is one thing. What to do about it is another thing. So I think that is where the issue of the NLC strike, whether they should retain it or not to retain it, that's another question. But the fact is that it's going to make people pay more for goods and services, not only for transporting themselves.
Thank you so much, Seyi, for shedding so much light on this issue. I'm going to bring in Efficient into this discussion, and we've had series of, people giving their own take on this fuel subsidy removal, and several governments, not just the present administration, have also tried to remove the fuel subsidy. Now, we've seen Labour consultants saying and insisting that subsidy removal without standard or functional refineries suggests incompetence. So for you, in your own analysis, do you also believe that this removal of fuel subsidy is wrong?
Well, thank you so much for having me. Apologies for little hiccups, trying to get in on the show. It's due to some technical issues. Now, let's go straight to the issue. There's a lot of inconsistency in the position of NSC. And this subject of discussion is very emotional for me because I believe that we are trying to shape the discussion outside. It's a big issue for every one of us. And it's quite emotional. We are at that junction where we have to decide what we want for ourselves, either as a country, as an individual, as a nation. And that is why this subject of discussion, it's an issue that involves every one of us. And I want to beg all the political analysts that are listening to me and hearing me now, that we should not make politics out of these very important issues. And because it's a very, very deep issue, because it's like a proverb in my language that said that a king sent you on an errand. You have to cross the river. You go to a place, the river is flooded. You cannot cross the river at the same time. You cannot go back to the king and say that this is why. So we have to be very, very ready for it. And this is number one thing. I salute the courage of the NSC. I know what they stand for. But I want to believe that even the president of NSC, Mr. Joe Alero, and he understood that before President Tinubu come into office, almost all the presidential candidates made a campaign promises, and we all agree that subsidy must go. So, and we've seen one or two other clips where NSC president was standing in one of the rallies of Mr. Peter Obi, where he made such promises. Now, what has changed between now and then? That the NSC is trying to say that this. I understand. Personally, I'm affected. I can tell you that my daily budget within this last week that the fuel has gone up has increased tremendously. I'm affected. But we need to look at the bigger picture. And what is the bigger picture? Are we saying we want to continue in the new normal, or we want to change things? I am tired of the whole analysis of how the cabal destroyed our refineries. I am tired of listening how the cabal make refinery not work. I'm tired of how Nigeria is having analysis of how Nigeria is refinery fuel that's been taken to other countries. I'm tired of those things. But at this crossroad, we need to know, to decide what we want to do going forward. And I think we just don't have a choice. The subsidy must go. And we need to prepare the mind of Nigeria, the reason why the subsidy must go. So we should not try to override the policy.
Why should the subsidy go? Because you talked about how hard it is for Nigerians and you were quite passionate about it. Why should the subsidy go when Nigerians are feeling the hard impact?
Well, the reason subsidy must go is this. We all know that, one, there is no database, cogent database for us to determine the amount of fuel we are using as a country. So there has been an argument that most of the fuel that has been subsidized are taken to the Nigerian Republic. Almost half of them, not all the amount that we paid for have been brought into the country, which means that it's a wastage on its own. So why are we going to, in a situation where almost all nations in the world are going through economic data, will be paying trillions of naira to help other countries where we need those resources to build our own country. So let's face it, subsidy must go, but we know that it's a cartel. There's a cabal that has been controlling how subsidies are being to in time past. So we have to face it at this time. And I want to beg the presidency. That if the president is telling Nigerians that we have to make the sacrifice, I agree. But leadership is by example. And the example we are talking about here, the politicians, the leaders must be the one to do what? To spearhead that example. And it has to do with number one, Mr. President must come out and speak to the mind of Nigerians. This is not the time where we have to be employing. I respect Mr. Dele Alake, the spokesperson of the presidency, an astute media person, very eloquent and very brilliant. But this is not the time where we have to be spinning the analysis, where we'll be cajoling, we have to be using, tactical ability to explain to Nigerians why subsidies have to go. The president have to come out and tell us, look Nigerians in the eyes, we need to remove this thing. You have said it time without number, it's going to be a difficult job. Fine. And the leadership must start with the example. And one is by cutting cost focus of the government. Because you cannot tell Nigerians who is buying fuel at the high rate, who the cost of living has gone up. I listened to my analyst talking about, increase across the board. And this government that is pushing the solidarity where we need to join the government, support the government, will be spending using, having an extravagant. We have talked sometimes about the bogus amount of money the National Assembly is taking. They have to lead by example for us to take it on, so that we know that we are in this together.
Thank you very much, Olale Coefficient. Now, back to you, Sheyi. The president's inaugural speech on May the 29th. A lot of Nigerians blamed that speech for saying, subsidies gone. That snowballed into what we've seen today, even though there were budgetary provisions for the subsidy to last at the end of June. Do you believe the president was wrong to have mentioned it? And is the president putting the cart before the horse in this situation? There are no palliative measures. There's been an increase in the minimum wage, but Nigerians have to deal with its effect immediately.
Okay. Two things there. I think one is a moral question, and the other one is probably more of an economic question. So I will show some hesitancy in the other one. Okay, should he have announced that day, or shouldn't he have announced? Or the way I will look at that is that probably if he had not announced, then probably the polity would not have been heated up like this and all of that. But one thing I can say to that is that there was a president who said that subsidy didn't exist, and he paid throughout to the last day of his presidency. They were paying subsidy, and he said, but it appears this person is very straightforward. So when someone is straightforward, you can catch the person. If the person is wrong, you can say, you can show the person that is wrong about this. So it's better someone is open, and then you are able to say, no, I don't agree with you. But when someone says, I'm not going to do something, or is silent, you don't know what to do. You are not able to prepare or preempt that person. So whether it announced at the right time or not, I may not be able to say. I think that's more of a moral question. So, but I think I don't know. I don't want to say so much about that. But the facts on ground is that this gentleman has said, I don't think I will continue paying for subsidies. Now, the second, and we have seen that play out almost immediately the next day. Now, the other one is that, why should he announce this, especially when he hasn't, the palliatives are not there, he hasn't increased minimum wage and all of that. And on that minimum wage, I'm going to say that, I dare say that, I don't know whether I don't think we have a minimum wage in Nigeria. You see, it's so easy for us. We have about 90 million people in the workforce. I mean, people of work, people whose age falls within the workforce. Now, the people who are talking about minimum wage, which is 30,000, and some states, about over 15 states have not even started paying it. They are looking at the issue of minimum wage as a government thing. In your company, in the company over across the street, they don't do minimum wage. Some are, and we have more Nigerians, probably 95% of Nigerians, Nigerian workers, who are not under this minimum wage you are talking about. In countries where you talk about minimum wage, it is the minimum wage anybody can pay anybody. Even if it's domestic staff, whatever you are doing per hour, no one is allowed to pay you lesser than that. In Nigeria, we don't have that. What you have is probably some the federal government and maybe some states paying 30,000. So that doesn't represent the whole workforce of Nigeria. When you go to the UK today, there is a minimum wage. No one is allowed to pay you, whether you're working for the government, there is NLC or no NLC, TUC or no TU. There is no such thing. So if I look at it from that standpoint, I've never worked for the government, so I don't know what minimum wage is. We don't pay like that here, and I'm sure there are different wages for different people. So I think what we should be talking about, whether it should announce or not, what we should be talking about is goes beyond minimum wage. To talk about minimum wage, we are limiting it to probably just 5% of workers in this country. And those are the other workers, about the 95% of other workers who are not working for any government and who are working for very weak governments, state governments, who can't even afford this. Some are not even able to afford the 30,000 to pay. They are in debt. They can't, you get what I'm saying? So what we should be talking about as the solution to this may not be the increase in minimum wage. That doesn't represent everyone. So we should be talking about some other things. So if he announced it before minimum wage, I don't think we have a minimum wage in Nigeria. I dare say that. So let's talk about other things. Let's talk about other things that probably should have been put in place, or whether or not some
other things like what? Can you mention one other thing that you feel should be talked about if not minimum wage? Yes. One major thing.
Very good. Very good. I think the major problem we're having is the lack of trust in the government. And this is what I mean. If the people who are saying, no, don't take it away, this is all we have, don't take it away. It is, if, for instance, you have been able to have a system where the current subsidy, you are able to say truly, and we can see every trickle of crude oil that is being exported, every trickle, every drop of PMS that is being paid, that is being paid for, we can see clearly that this money is being paid really to subsidize what we actually use.
Yeah.
It is easy for people then to believe that, oh, when you now don't pay this money, we will also be able to know how you're going to spend each kobo of that money. So what I think should have been done is, first of all, to audit that system. And that's why we are saying, you said we have been paying this and this and all of that. Have you been able to audit it? There's so many, even the National Assembly, that is the House of Rep, they have a lot of probes into billions of naira that have been paid, which we cannot account for. So you get it?
Yeah.
So what I think, if I want to suggest that this is what the government should do, maybe let me just start with one. It is that the revenue they're going to save, they should show the people how they're going to transfer this revenue to them in a way that it affects their lives. Whatever is going to be the problems they're going to be having with, they're going to face with higher cost of living on all across board, in everything they touch is going to be costlier.
Okay.
They're going to see that, the government is going to be able to provide, I don't want to call it palliative, but some infrastructure that will mitigate the effect of these price increases.
All right, Cherise, I'm sorry, I'll have to cut you short there because I need to bring in Efficient finally for the discussion. You talked about auditing, talking about credibility of the government and also infrastructure by the government, things that the government should do to cushion the effect of the subsidy. But the question at hand right now, Efficient finally, NLC is saying they will go on strike. We're seeing electricity workers say that they will also join the strike. If this is successful, how do you think it's going to affect the economy if exactly NLC goes on strike on Wednesday?
And do you see the government reversing its decision on the subsidy?
Well, what I want to say is that the personality of President Bola Tinubu, I don't think NLC will go on strike on Wednesday because the personality of the current chief of staff of the president, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, will know that it's a deal breaker, and they know that implication of NLC going on strike on Wednesday. No government will want to kickstart. They are even yet to settle down with the strike of the NLC. And don't forget, if you try to look at the history and antecedents of Femi Gbajabiamila has brokered some deals that we thought it won't happen. If you remember, it was President Bola that sat down with the ASU that settled the long time strike they have in the past. The same thing as when the resident doctors also went on strike. It was President Bola that also broke a deal with the resident doctor. If you remember, when the aviation workers wanted to shut down the airport, it was President Bola under his leader as the Speaker of House of Representatives who broke out. So I believe that President Bola Tinubu know the implication of NLC going on strike on Wednesday, and I believe that 24 hours is a lot of time to bring them to roundtable. And the NLC on their own part should understand this, that this is not the time for us to be doing grandstanding, because our nation is at crossroads and critical decisions must be made. If I want to talk further, say this, that the issue of palliative, I think issue of palliative or no palliative, we can't begin to throw money at the problem at every instances, but the president needs to come out and convince Nigerians. It's not everybody that wants palliative. Me, as a person, I feel the impact, but I'm not expecting the 10,000, 20,000 that the government want to put into, want to use to subsidize. But presidency needs to come out, tell Nigerians reasons why they need to support the government. Not the kind of statement that you listen that he hates or the media hates. The president needs to address Nigerians to be part of this project, because it's a project for a new Nigeria and a new of hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Efficient, for joining us on this conversation. Definitely a lot of things that the government needs to do, and we wait to see if NLC will actually go on strike on Wednesday. Thank you also, Sheyi Olufemi, for joining us on this conversation.
Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you so much. Thank you so much.
And this is where we draw the curtains in today's conversation. In the first half, we did look at the situation in Senegal, which has concluded our conversation, and the Labour Union insisted on a nationwide strike on Wednesday. I'm Benga Bora. Thanks for being a part of the program.
I'm Rita Modia. See you again on Wednesday.